Your photos tell a story about you, whether you realize it or not. They communicate your confidence, your lifestyle, your awareness, and women pick up on all of this instantly. And you may think that your dating results come down to just luck or the app, or maybe that women just don't give you a chance. But the truth is, the way you present yourself visually sets a tone for how every woman perceives your value. Before she even reads your bio or your first message, she already decided if you're someone she desires or somebody she forgets. And no, this is not about being born with perfect genetics. It's about understanding how attraction works visually and using that to your full advantage. So in this video, I'm going to break down on why your photos might be blocking your success, the psychology behind visual desire, and how small changes in your presentation can completely shift the way women respond to you, both online and in person. Now, for years, I've been studying female attraction, female psychology, and what they actually respond to. And the truth is, you can attract women based on multiple points. I'm talking about your status, your money, your lifestyle, of course, your looks, etc., etc. But what I found is that if you want to have the best overall relationships, if you want the most out of that woman, if you want the most feminine version of that woman, you have to attract her based on what I call genuine desire. And so essentially what genuine desire is basically primal attraction. It's not even that she has a choice to be attracted to you, it's her brain making that decision for her. And so with that being said, genuine desire must be the foundation of every single courtship or relationship that you have in the future. So with that being said, when it comes to our pictures, what do we have to do? We have to elicit genuine desire or primal attraction so that she has no choice but to match with us and overall just show up to the date. This is how I solved my dating life, by understanding that one point alone. Genuine desire. Now, here's the truth, and that is genuine desire is usually backed from the degree of physical attraction. Now, that's the reason why a lot of guys struggle, is because they can't spark that genuine desire because they're not usually attractive themselves. And this usually comes down to a few points in which we're going to discuss in terms of looks maxing. But before we even get into that, whenever you sort of elicit genuine desire through the pictures itself, not only once again is she going to show up, but they're more likely to reach out first to you on the dating app. And overall, it's going to separate you from the average man they're swiping on. I promise you, you think your competition is tough online, but it's really not that difficult. The reason is because most guys just overall suck with their presentation. They don't understand genuine desire. They don't understand female psychology. They don't know how to elicit that emotional pull from women through their photos alone. And this is what I've mastered, and this is also how I've helped so many guys master the results of online dating. And we're gonna show you some examples here soon. But before we get into that, here's what I really want you to remember, and that is attraction is not a choice. It's simply instinctive, and you have 2 seconds to make a first-rate impression. Okay, Austin, I understand genuine desire, but how do we actually elicit genuine desire through the pictures itself? Well, first, it comes down to us, because we are the product. We are creating the marketing campaigns to sell ourselves. First thing you have to do is what I call universal looks maxing. Universal looks maxing is essentially crafting yourself into a universally attractive sort of image. Now, a lot of guys might niche themselves down, and this is due to their grooming, their hairstyle, their archetypes that they represent, and that is fine as long as that is in line with the type of woman you want to attract. For example, if you're into like indie rocker girls, like you know what I mean, like those rock type of girls who listen to eccentric music, or maybe you're into like that more spiritual, yoga, vegan eating sort of girl, then okay, you can match your archetype aligned with that. But if you're a guy like me, in which you're kind of open to everybody, doesn't matter the race, doesn't matter anything, as long as they're attractive, then we have to craft ourselves into a universally attractive look. Now, an easy way you can do this is through your grooming and your hairstyles. And what I do is I research and I figure out what women like overall. Okay, facial hair is usually a stubble sort of beard, or some sort of disconnected goatee like I have right now. Of course, you can still pull off the no facial hair look as long as you have the facial structure and features to be aligned with that. Also, when it comes to our hairstyles, if you're a black man watching this, we want to avoid dreads, braids, things like that. Or if you're any other sort of ethnicity, maybe the longer hair might be niching you down too much. So we need to craft ourselves into something that's a little bit more universal, maybe a fade haircut, maybe some sort of flow or medium haircut, right? All of these things play a part into the universal looks maxing. Now, number 2 is going to be what I call phenotype maxing. Now, your phenotype is how your race expresses itself through its characteristics. So your hair texture, your skin color, your eye color, things like that. There are universally attractive phenotypes. Now, you could get into a deep rabbit hole with this, but perhaps the easiest way to figure this out is to simply find a celebrity or somebody who is quite popular with women and sort of try and transfer yourself into that sort of phenotype that they're representing. But before you do that, that person who you're trying to phenotype max with must also be congruent with your phenotype. So for example, as a black man, I'm not going to try to phenotype max into somebody with blonde hair and blue eyes. Obviously that's incongruent based upon what I naturally showcase, right? But maybe I can sort of phenotype max into a more Afro-Latino sort of look. And you can do this with anybody. It doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your skin color, doesn't matter your ethnic background. Everybody usually has some sort of person that they can sort of look max themselves into. And I've seen a lot of you guys have done it with me. And you know, every time I come across you guys Instagram or pictures and I see signs, I'm like, yo, we look like we can be brothers. Like, I understand what you're doing. And it's a good job that you're doing that, because when I look at your before and after, it's a totally different person. Now, the very first thing that I do whenever I work with clients is we go through a looks maxing audit. And what I basically do is I analyze their current face, I analyze their body, I analyze their style, and I look at how we can craft that into a more universally attractive image. And in fact, on the screen, I'm gonna show you some examples of some client results we have gotten so far using what I call the Romeo effect. Now, the Romeo effect isn't just looks maxing, it isn't just fixing your style, but it's more so doing everything we're talking about in this video, enhancing your online image, enhancing your pictures so that you start attracting and eliciting genuine desire from women. Listen, over 50% of couples are now meeting online, and if you're just cold approaching every single day, if you have no dating strategy, especially if you're above the ages of 27 plus, then you need to start using the Romeo effect so that you actually start getting the results you want. Now, as I've shown you, the before and afters are completely different people, and those completely different people get totally different results within their dating lives. So if you want to see exactly how the Romeo effect works, how it can change your dating life for the better so that you start attracting higher interest women, higher quality women who actually bring value to your life, then check out the link down below. I created a free presentation going over exactly how this process works. All right, so now let's touch on some of the pictures. So you saw the before and afters, right? And I think outside of the looks maxing element and outside of the universal appeal element, when it comes to the photos itself, they have to hit two parts, and that is high quality and being high leverage. When I say high leverage, what I'm talking about is essentially positioning. Positioning in terms of what I call points of leverage. Points of leverage are essentially attraction triggers that separate you from the average. It can be a combination of your sex appeal, your style, the environment, lifestyle, the composition, etc., etc. What I always say is that each one of your pictures needs to have at least 2 degrees of points of leverage. In fact, if you're part of the Romeo effect, you actually will not even post any of your pictures until they hit that 2 degrees of points of leverage. Now, I actually built a cool tool for all of my clients. It's called the Digital Romeo AI Coach, and it has a built-in photo analyzer. Now, this photo analyzer is super, super dope because you can actually test a picture, and then the AI is going to tell you exactly what points of leverage you're showcasing alongside with giving you a score. And so what I do with my clients is that we ensure that their pictures are hitting at least 2 degrees of points of leverage before they post it on Instagram or even dating apps. Now, what's also cool about this tool is that you can even A/B test and compare pictures and see which one has more degrees of points of leverage, just in case you might be stuck between 2 different images. Now, unfortunately, only clients of the Romeo effect have access to this tool, but if you are interested, once again, click the link down below. We'll show you how you can get access to this tool alongside with the whole entire mentorship. Now, one other thing I'll touch on pictures is the face and body posing, because you can have high quality pictures, you can have your points of leverage in place, but if you don't have the aesthetic element of the face and body posing, then it's still pretty much going to be useless. Now, how should our face actually look when it comes to eliciting genuine desire, as we spoke about before? It all comes down to what I call the look of seduction, otherwise known as a smize. Now, this is made popular by Tyra Banks if you watched the top model shows back in the day, but a smize is essentially whenever you squint your eyes slightly and even have maybe like a slight smirk. What we don't want to have is what I call dead face or deer in headlights sort of face. So kind of like surprised look, or we have this very neutral blank sort of facial expression and we're furrowing our brows or we look angry. You have to more so treat the photo shoot or treat the picture in itself like foreplay, because who's on the other side of that screen? It's the woman that you're trying to attract. And that mental sort of thought alone, whenever you change that when you go out and take pictures, it's going to have a huge effect in terms of how you actually start posing your face. Like whenever I take a photo shoot, I'm looking at the camera as if I'm on the date with an attractive woman. So it's a smirk, slight squint, maybe a little bit of a smile. Overall, we have to make sure that we look sexy. Now, when it comes to body posing, it's very, very simple. We want to avoid any closed body language or looking shy or awkward, and we want natural, effortless sort of movements. So this usually comes down to you either being in motion through walking shots or just having some good static poses. I like one where you put your hand in your pocket, thumb out, maybe leaning over a rail, looking off to the side. You know, there's so many different poses that we can do, but when you have that good combination of facial and body posing plus high leverage, this is what's gonna separate you from the average. So now we have all of our pictures done. What is next? What do we have to do in order to separate ourselves from the average? And once again, make sure that we operate in enough volume so that all of this actually works. Number one is gonna be the 3 pillars of presentation, which is gonna be your pictures, your prompts, and your bio. Everything has to work together so that you actually have a congruent profile that shows exactly what you're trying to represent. I've seen a lot of times in which guys have, you know, the good pictures, but their bios are not really aligned. It's an autobiography. They're spilling out a little too much about themselves, and through that, they don't showcase enough mystery. And if you don't know, mystery is actually very attractive to a woman, because before you meet her, you actually want her to sort of have a fantasy about you or what you're gonna be like. She doesn't want to know too much about you. Even though they say they do, they actually don't, because whenever a woman knows too much about you before they meet you, that can in itself actually lower attraction. Now with the prompts, the other pillar of presentation is that it has to evoke an emotional response, an emotional sort of reply from the woman, so that we can actually get her to respond to our profile first. There are many ways to do this. The easiest way to not do this is to have something that is either disqualifying or too much about yourself. For example, typical Sunday, reading books, playing video games. Like, nothing about that sparks an emotional desire in which is gonna make the woman want to reply. And so this is where it comes down to understanding female psychology, what they actually like, and overall what I call the female gaze. Once you understand that, you can craft prompts that will actually evoke an emotional response so that you can not only elicit genuine desire, but you actually have those women reaching out to you first, which is going to increase your chance of actually going out on that first date. Now, number 2 is going to be a multi-channel presence. So many guys are just either using Tinder or just only using Bumble or just only using Hinge. Now, we need to use all big 3 starting off with. Now, what I've seen for the most part is that Hinge is gonna work the best, but you should still use Tinder even if the results are low. You should still use Bumble even if the results are low. Maybe even try Facebook dating. You see, with the modern technology and all these app builders, there's so many platforms that we can put ourselves on to ensure that we have the amount of volume, so that way we're not operating in scarcity. In fact, when you have all this dialed in, especially if you use the Romeo effect at the same time, you're gonna find yourself being overwhelmed with matches, in which, okay, then you can reduce one channel. But starting off with, we need to have minimum 3. And then lastly, I would say understanding the algorithms in itself, understanding the dating app algorithms. I've done a whole video dissecting the Hinge algorithm, but once you understand the algorithm and how it actually works, you can actually start hacking that and using that to your full advantage. So using Boost at the right time, changing your pictures every 2 to 3 months, ensuring that our first few pictures are actually the best, so that way we have more right swipes than left swipes, which is gonna help our algorithm score. And then from there, you can just rinse and repeat. Now, like I said, if you wanna put this all into action, if you're tired of having subpar photos, if you wanna actually use the Romeo effect so that you can start attracting higher quality women, so that you can transform your image, transform your looks, transform your style, transform your online presence, including Instagram, then once again, click the link down below. I created a free presentation going over exactly how this whole process works. And if you also wanna see how the Hinge algorithm actually works, then be sure to watch this video next, where I dissect it in full.